do that. I'd like to call the Macomb City Council to order, please. If you please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If the clerk would call the roll, please.
Yeah, I will, maybe. Shu,
Present.
Vijezi,
Here.
Shabazz,
Here.
Dorset,
Here.
Katz, Wynn, Moon,
Here.
5 present.
We have a quorum. Thank you. Citizens wishing to address the City Council on matters germane to the agenda of tonight's meeting will be limited to 3 minutes and are asked to be brief and concise in making their remarks. Comments submitted by mail or email will not be read aloud, but a copy will be provided to each member of the council and made a part of the minutes of this meeting. Does anyone wish to speak to the council under the public comment section of tonight's agenda? All righty, hearing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda, and a motion is in order.
Move to adopt the consent agenda as published.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to adopt the consent agenda as published. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shu,
Aye.
Vijezi,
Aye.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. Under unfinished business, item number 1, consideration of an ordinance to create a special event liquor license for the St. Paul Parish's Raising Saints Block Party event. This will be second reading.
Thank you. St. Paul Parish has filed an application requesting a special event liquor license for its Raising Saints Block Party to be held at 309 West Jackson Street in Macomb on July 22nd, 2023, between the hours of 5 p.m. and 11 p.m. The parish is a special event retailer, as that term is defined in the code, and this is an annual community event. If adopted, the ordinance would provide for the creation of a special event liquor license for St. Paul Parish's Raising Saints Block Party to be held at 309 West Jackson Street on July 22nd, 2023, between the hours of 5 p.m. and 11 p.m.
Thank you. That'll stand a second reading. Motion is in order.
So moved.
Second.
Been moved and seconded to authorize the issuance of the license. Any discussion? A representative here last week explaining what the extent of the event will be. Already hearing no discussion, roll call, please.
Vijezi,
Aye.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. There is no other unfinished business this evening. Under new business, item number 1, consideration of an ordinance amending section 17-639 and chapter 17, appendix A of the Macomb Municipal Code. This will be first reading.
Thank you. The ordinance provides that Planning Commission had a meeting on June 14th, 2023, wherein it was recommended that amendments proposed herein be adopted and approved by City Council. If adopted, Council would concur in the recommendation of Planning Commission to amend Section 17-639 and Chapter 17, Appendix A of the Municipal Code. Those amendments include adding the provision to allow a greenhouse as a special use in an R1 and an R2 zoning district.
Thank you. That'll stand as first reading. The city attorney did provide you with a memorandum and a copy of the proposed amendment changes with your, came right before the meeting this evening. So we'll have that on for further discussion at next week's Committee of the Whole meeting. Item number 2, consideration of an ordinance to amend portions of the municipal code amending parking provisions. This will be first reading.
Thank you. City staff has reviewed the area in the 300 block of Clay Street, particularly on the west side where there's a Go West bus stop. Macomb Police Department has responded to difficulties in loading and unloading passengers in that area due to parking near the Go West bus stop. In addition, as everyone is aware, the city no longer has any parking meters, and we've also indicated a need to limit or remove rather the short-term parking. If adopted, Council would indicate its desire to amend sections 15-214, 15-215-4, 15-219E, and Chapter 15, Article 4, Division 2, as proposed within the ordinance. The amendment to 15-214 would provide that there be no parking on Clay Street on the west side from Adams Street to West Calhoun Street. 15-215-4 would be amended to delete paragraph 4 in its entirety. 15-219E would be amended to allow permit parking within the downtown square on spaces not abutting a curb. That's for the downtown parking permit. And we would propose in the ordinance for the complete removal of Division 2 in Article 4 of Chapter 15, which pertains to parking meters.
Thank you. As noted in the memorandum at your desk from the city attorney, this was discussed at a general government committee meeting here not too long ago. And we'll have that on for some additional discussion at next week's committee of the whole meeting. Item number 3, consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 2 of the Macomb Municipal Code, adopting administrative adjudication. This would be first reading.
Thank you. The Illinois Municipal Code and the Illinois Vehicle Code both provide for the creation and implementation of a system of administrative adjudication for municipal ordinance violations, building code violations, and violations for standing parking and vehicle condition. City staff believes it would be better to obtain compliance through a code hearing department. We also provide for the creation of that hearing department with those proceedings to be heard by a hearing officer. It is indicated within the ordinance that this would provide an expeditious resolution, which would be in the best interest of the city. If adopted, council would indicate their desire to enact an ordinance providing for a code hearing department and administrative code hearing system to regulate municipal ordinance violations within the city. And therefore, Chapter 2 of the Municipal Code would be amended to add Article 12 as set forth in the attached exhibit to the ordinance.
Thank you. That'll stand as first reading. We'll have that on for further discussion at next week's committee of the whole meeting. Item number 4, consideration of an ordinance to approve disposal of personal property, both vehicles and equipment owned by the city of Macomb. This will be first reading.
Thank you. The Illinois Municipal Code does provide authority for the city to dispose of personal property that it deems is no longer necessary, useful, or beneficial in one of 3 ways permitted by the Illinois Municipal Code. Based on the opinions of City Hall staff and department heads, the city, or council rather, would find that it's no longer necessary, useful, or beneficial to retain the items listed in Exhibit A and would authorize and direct the mayor or his designee to sell or dispose of those properties by all available means under the Illinois Municipal Code.
Thank you. That'll stand as first reading. We'll place it on next Monday's agenda at the committee of the whole meeting for further discussion. Item number 5, consideration to approve a proposal for procurement credit cards from J.P. Morgan Chase & Company. There's a memorandum in your packet from the Business Office Director, Ms. Worley, and could you come up and go over that for us, please, Melissa?
Good evening. The business office prepared an RFP to get proposals on procurement cards / credit cards. They'll serve both purposes. And after reviewing them on rebates, their fee structures, online portal, fraud control, and some other items listed in the memo, I would like to recommend J.P. Morgan Chase to be the vendor that we would utilize moving forward. So I'll take
Any questions for Ms. Worley about what we're attempting here? Mr. Alderman Vajezi.
Just one quick question. How many RFPs did you receive?
2. And I did email out to my IGFOA list, so there's lots of banking partners within that group, so I did send it to quite a few carriers, so.
Okay, thank you.
Melissa, could you go over the general provisions of what we will benefit from with this type of arrangement?
So there, with J.P. Morgan Chase, there is no fees at all with their program. We would run as many accounts payable vendors through virtual cards that we would create through J.P. Morgan Chase. And so really we would like to maximize our rebate that we would receive back. The minimum rebate we will receive back is 1%. To give an idea, just right off the cuff, we probably spend at least $1 million or more potential through these cards, just running waste management through that, just as an example, some of our larger vendors. So that's on the low end of how much our rebate could be. And it could streamline a lot of processes within the business office too, because, you know, we could code all of that and import it into our software and integrate it into the software. So I do think there'll be some efficiencies with that as well.
Okay.
Helpful.
And then would we be transitioning department heads to this card as well?
Yes, so our regular credit cards would also transition to JP Morgan Chase, and they could take pictures of their receipts and code them within their portal, and then we would import the information into our BSNA software.
Okay, very good. Anyone have any questions for Melissa? I think we'd entertain a motion to award the procurement card program to JP Morgan Chase and Company.
So moved.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you, and thank you, Melissa. Item number 6, consideration to approve the paving Phase 3 project. There's a memorandum in your packet from the Public Works Director, Ms. Ortman. Mr. Coker is going to go over that for us tonight. Scott?
Sure. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So I think actually the memo was in last week's packet. So to summarize, we're paving, or this phase is mill and overlay of various streets. So we've got 3 different projects that will all be happening kind of simultaneously. Some grinding and paving that's happening very shortly. Some microsurfacing, and this is mill and overlay of some streets around town. So this was a little bit over what we expected, but total amount is right on par with what we had budgeted for the entire block of projects. So it's $849,425.55 to Gunther Construction for this mill and overlay work.
Thank you. Entertain a motion to approve that and award that bid.
Make a motion to approve paving Phase 3 projects.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Dorset,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
Shabazz,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried. Thank you. And item number 7, consideration to waive the formal bid process for emergency sidewalk repairs and replacement on the west side of South Lafayette Street from Washington Street South to the alley. There's a memorandum in your packet explaining the situation from Public Works Director. And Scott, could you go over that for us too, please?
Sure. So during Heritage Days, we had a pedestrian fall on the sidewalk on the west side of Lafayette, just south of Washington Street, somewhere around in front of the old dairy. So if you've walked through there, it's a rather uneven area. It goes back to when the building was used as more of as a dairy, not the old dairy, but as a dairy. So there's actually a driveway there, and so there's some uneven curb and et cetera. So this is an area that needed to be done for a while. So we went ahead to get this moving. Alice talked to our 3 contractors and requested proposals from 3 contractors that we do business with: Lavadier, UCM, and Hood Contracting. Lavadier is the only one that submitted a proposal. So the amount is $54,091. So it's sidewalk from just south of Washington all the way down to the alley. It'll be curb and gutter. So it seems quite rather expensive, but to get it done quickly and the amount of labor that is there, it seems on par with what I would expect. So we need to get this completed, I believe.
So we'd entertain a motion to waive the formal bid process for this.
Motion to waive formal bid process.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Alderman Moon?
When were we gonna bid the rest of the sidewalk projects?
I don't have that information right now. Is there other sidewalks that?
Well, you say this project was scheduled for this year, or this is something new?
This is something new that's come up. Yes. So this, and we would pay for this out of our infrastructure sales tax fund, which we have the money available to do.
Just sounds awfully high.
Would agree. Alderman Shu?
How quick is like what do you have a projection on how soon it'll get started?
I would expect within a couple weeks they'll have it complete. Unfortunately, Alice isn't here, so
That
she
seems
talked
pretty
with Lavadier, but I think it's because we asked for it right away.
Mobilize quickly. Alderman Dorsett.
So is that likely the reason for the extremely high bid? Because
It's part of the reason, yes.
I think so. All right, any further discussion? Hearing none, roll call, please.
Moon,
Pass.
For two-thirds, we do have to have five, so we need a vote, yes or no.
Pardon me?
To meet the requirement to waive process, you have to have two-thirds of the council members, not just two-thirds present, so we do need a vote. If we don't have all five, it doesn't pass.
Yes.
Shu,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset,
Aye.
Motion carried, thank you. And then item number 8 would be a companion to this. We'd ask for your consideration to award the bid for the sidewalk replacement project on west side of South Lafayette from Washington south to the alley.
So moved.
Second.
So moved and seconded to award the bid for Lavadier Construction. Any discussion? Excuse me. Hearing none, roll call, please.
Shu,
Aye.
Vajezi,
Aye.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried, thank you. Item number 9, consideration to grant yourselves power to act on July 10th, 2023 at the Committee of the Whole meeting to approve an economic development loan. We've been asked to provide a consortium loan with 2 other partners in the community for retail development in the community. All of the information is not readily available right now. That's why we're not taking action tonight. But we anticipate having that information available for a community development subcommittee meeting that's been scheduled later this week. And then we'd have the information in front of you to make an informed decision at next week's Committee of the Whole meeting.
Make a motion to grant power of act for July 10th, 2023 Committee of the Whole meeting to approve for an economic development loan.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Alderman Moon, did you have a question, sir?
Just gonna motion.
Thank you, sir. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, all in roll call, please.
Vajezi,
Aye.
Shabazz,
Aye.
Dorset,
Aye.
Moon,
Aye.
Shu,
Aye.
all ayes.
Motion carried, thank you. There is no other new business this evening. Aldermanic reports, Alderman Moon.
No report.
Thank you, sir. Alderman Dorsett.
Yes, would you made it through Heritage Days? Thank goodness it was one weekend earlier. The numbers are not in yet because, of course, the wrap-up meeting is not for about a week or two. But it felt like the numbers were a little higher than they had been recently. It seemed to go fairly smoothly with maybe one small detail.
Understand. Thought it was well done. Alderman Nguyen. Alderman Shabazz, I apologize.
Well, I do want to commend the committee that put on the Heritage Days. I thought I was impressed by the, we'll say, cultural environment, diversity, right? It was inviting, had something for everybody, and a lot of things in the middle. So I thought that was great.
Good, thank you. Alderman Jesse.
It has been a very tumultuous week for a lot of people with the storm that came through, and a huge shout out to the city, all the workers, all the citizens that came out to help with the removal of trees from roadways. It was great to see just anybody and everybody helping their neighbor. So thank you to everybody, city employees and citizens for helping out in bad times.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Alderman Chu?
Yeah, I would echo Alderman Vajezi's comments and thanks for all the teams assisting and everyone's patience, as I know people probably want other things done, but there's a lot to do. So.
Very good. Thank you. Madam Clerk, anything from you?
Nothing.
Okay, Ms. Scalf? Mr. No, Miss? It's all yours, Scott.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do have kind of a summary of what happened here in the city, especially in City Hall over the last few days. There's been a lot going on. So as you all know, the storm came through around 11:30 Thursday morning. We've heard anywhere from 80 to 100 mile an hour straight line winds is what came through. Obviously, the power at City Hall and several areas around town went out at that time. City Hall folks and all of our city departments all sheltered in their areas. We went to the basement here. Something I will say that was very interesting, as I was checking doors and things, I noticed a car pulled up outside on the east side. There's a mother and child that was out driving, and they found some place to shelter in place here with us. So welcomed them into the basement. It was dark down there, but we survived with cell phone and whatever flashlights we had. So everything is up. At the time that went down, police department, fire department, transit were up either on generators or they still had power. As you know, just a couple of weeks ago, I asked for a grant for a generator for City Hall. So I guess maybe I caused all this. I hope not. So the water plant was down. It was a priority for Ameren, and then the Spring Lake pumps were down also. So those were running on generators. City Hall was restored Saturday afternoon, along with the east side of the square, the Lemoyne, the Frontier building here to the south of us, which has a lot of telephone infrastructure. So all that came up Saturday. We still had phone problems here today, but everything seems to be working. Technology, email, everything seems to be working well. I would like to thank especially all of our departments, Public Works, Fire, and the police department during the emergency. They were out doing what they needed to do to make people were safe, and now Public Works is doing out cleaning up stuff. We have put out notice to everyone that they can take branches and limbs and pile them at the curb on their side, not in the street, but Public Works will be going around to pick those up. Starting today, it'll just take them time to get there. Our brush site is essentially full, but we're working through what we're going to do with that. We have reached out to IPW Man, which is our mutual aid group that we're in, to get additional chippers, trucks to take care of trees and et cetera. So I would like to thank all of our departments that work together. Several of us, the city attorney, business office director, we were at the PD working from there because technology was down at City Hall. And I'd like to thank all of the linemen, Ameren, McDonough Power, and McDonough Telephone also that worked very hard to get things going. So everything seems to be working well at City Hall. We'll work to get a generator here because a lot of our technology comes through City Hall and phones, networks, et cetera. So I'd like to thank everyone for everything they did over this time and continue to work on it.
Thanks, Scott. Just to double down on a couple of those things. So we had some folks who were inconvenienced and some folks that needed shelter and some other necessities of life. So we do thank them. They were under some prolonged stress. We'd like to remind those that still may be needing some assistance with either food that may have went bad or some shelter that, they lost something, that the Red Cross has set up a helpline. You can get that number off the city's website or our social media accounts. We did have a substantial response from Ameren, and we want to thank them for keeping us informed here at City Hall. Also, McDonough County Highway Department and the county government has offered their assistance in removal of those items from the curb. And just to reiterate what Scott said about, we'll take regardless of size. They don't need to be bundled. They don't need to be stickered. They don't need to be cut up. Just get it to the curb, and our crews will get it from there. I do want to take a moment. I had significant and frequent outreach from Representative Dan Swanson. This has nothing to do with politics. It just has a lot to do with someone who made an extra effort to keep us on their list of folks to take care of. So thank Representative Swanson for that. Don't believe there's anything else to come before you this evening. We'd entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to adjourn. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Thank you.